Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. At this very moment, we all are working on learning English language. And one thing is for sure that we all belong to different levels. Though, just to say, we can say that I belong to a basic level learner or I am an intermediate level learner. For sure, we don't belong to advanced level learners because this is the reason that we are working on our skills. We are working on learning this language and making our communication better. And we all intend to become the advanced level learners someday in future. One thing is for sure that we all should be very much clear with the fact that how much language I know and how much I have to work on. In your case, you know better about you, and in my case, I know better what my status is. I remember when I initially, just a couple of months back, when I started my journey of learning English, I think my situation was very bad. Normally, what happens is, as we all are familiar with the four modules of this language, that there is reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And to some extent, basic language was known to me. I could read and understand, and to some extent, I could write well also. But so far as listening and speaking is concerned, this problem has been with me since beginning. Listening in the sense that a number of times I used to listen to the BBC News, or I used to watch Discovery channels or Animal Planet kind of channels. And yes, I admitted that a big chunk of that part, a number of times I couldn't understand, like some specific words. While listening to the BBC News, I used to find difficulty in understanding what the newsreader was saying. And at the same time, the another problem that I was facing at that very moment, and these problems are still with me, that is how to converse in English. Initially, whenever the situation would be that where I would have to speak something in English, my heart would go pitter pat, and it would be like a very difficult task for me. A number of times situations become very awkward if you are not that educated. I think then the things are easier for you because people around you, they admit this thing and they give you a sort of benefit of doubt that you don't know, that's why you can't do it. But problem with the persons like me is altogether different. It's very difficult to tackle these kinds of situations when you have a plethora of degrees in your credit. So at that time, people start judging you if you are not able to speak, or even if you try to speak, and if you make the mistake, you are not spared. And above that, if you are at the top of the hierarchy in your arena, that you cannot be spared. And at that very moment, the situation becomes too difficult for you because you cannot make the mistakes. People take you like this, that they won't spare you if you make the mistake. And for you it is very difficult that whom you talk to. Situation becomes difficult for you, that you don't find anybody around you to whom you can discuss about your problem, and from whom you can take the coaching, or who can help you to get out of it. I was in that situation a couple of months back, that I used to find myself in such a place where I cannot say anybody that I don't know. So in that very case, I had to put in lots of efforts. I had to do lots of homework just to speak, just to speak few words, just to speak a few sentences on the stage. I have passed through that phase also. But what did finally I do? The things were inside my mind. But one fine day, I decided that I must start learning like a student. It was very difficult for me to admit it. I admitted it, but it was very difficult for me to admit it openly. Though I have always been a kind of person who would always try to learn new things. I have never been a satisfactory kind of person so far as learning of any new thing is concerned. But my career took shape in that way that from one side of the table I moved to the other side. And one fine day I became the head of the institution, where it is supposed that you know everything. You know what are the duties of a boss, you know what are the jobs of a clerk, you know what are the duties of everybody who is working under you. And at the same time, you should be a person who converses very well, who is a very good communicator. And this thing impacts a lot on the people around you. This is for sure. A number of times I had to pretend being confident in spite of having the realization from the inner core of my heart that I have so many of the weaknesses so far as the communication is concerned. I was hesitant, and for me the biggest challenge was to break that hesitancy. For that, to speak to somebody in English, I was badly in need of that environment. And frankly speaking, there was no scope of creating this kind of environment around me. I tried a lot, a number of times, being the head of the institution, but that effort couldn't come up with much better results. I couldn't find that much of the opportunity to converse with somebody, because when you are the boss somewhere, you are to converse flawlessly and fluently and without making an error. This was again a challenge there. So a couple of months back, I then joined some one-to-one kind of platform where I was to talk to the tutors. So doing that kind of exercise, I could succeed to that an extent that with the passage of time and after attending a number of sessions, I came out of my shell. That at the same time, another thing which I started doing was that I started watching and listening to the not English channels, in fact, to the channels where English was spoken. Because if I say English channels, that sometimes sounds that some foreign channels. No, I started listening to the Indian people, but who converse very well. I started my journey by listening those kinds of channels. Though at the same time, I started listening to Winfrey and Michelle Obama also. At that time, I came across one such channel which I am still following, and I found that very good companion of mine, and that channel was of a very much Indian girl, Aleena Rais. When I stumbled upon that channel, one of her videos per chance, but once I listened to her, I found her so convincing. She speaks so well, and when I listen to her, even today, whenever I have time and I have nothing to do anything else, then I open her channel and switch on some of her videos, and I listen to it completely. Good thing with her videos is she uses a very simple language, or if at all she uses fancy words, but she uses these words so smartly and in such a simpler way. She tries to make you understand. Whenever I come across those words, I used to jot those words down. Watching her videos, I came across the word on the fly for the first time. Before that, I have never heard saying this thing that I want to learn English, but I can't do it on the fly. So I heard this word on the fly, this phrase, this idiom for the first time from that girl. In one of her another videos, she was talking about that how to address the people when we are sitting in a restaurant, and then how to place the order. And she is the girl from whom I, for the first time, I learned this word steward. That never say the word waiter, waiter come here. The person who is serving you, that is the steward. Then I came across another word from her conversation only, that is the lingo, because at that very moment she was talking about some vocabulary words. That's advising that you jot down 2 or 3 words for a day and start practicing those words on daily basis. At that time she talked about that you select those 2 3 words and incorporate those words in your lingo. So I came across the word lingo for the first time through her videos only, and I am highly impressed by her way of talking, and her way of addressing the issues. She does it so smartly and in such a beautiful way, in such a convincing way, that you start falling in love with the language English. I feel I owe majority of the credit of my language, my learning, that coming from there where I was a couple of months back and reaching over here. That girl has very important role she has played. That girl has, her videos has played a very important role. I owe the credit to the videos of Aleena Rais, and I know majority of you might be familiar with that girl, because when we are working on our communication, when we are working on our language, and it is this is the way the algorithm of the YouTube works, that the kind of the content you search, YouTube starts recommending you the videos related to that. So definitely everyone of you might have come across the videos of Aleena Rais, and you would also go eye to eye with me that yes, she is a girl who inspires us a lot. So that way I recommend her videos a lot. So whatever way you are going, whatever you are doing on your journey of learning English, ultimately the main secret is the practice, practice and practice. If we want to speak, speaking would come with speaking, speaking and speaking only. As I have earlier said, that this is speaking English is like learning swimming or learning driving. You cannot learn swimming until you enter into the pool and experience everything yourself. No one else would swim on your behalf. You will have to do it yourself. Similarly, if you want to learn driving, you will have to sit on the driver's seat. You will have to familiarize yourself with the clutch, with the brake and the gear. So you will have to do it yourself. Similarly, if you want to learn this language and to hone your communication skills, you will have to do it yourself. So then try to peep inside you. Take a sneak peek of your potentials. Where do you stand? How much you have learned and how much is left? How much effort you should put in? How much you are putting in at the moment? How much more is needed to put in to come up to your own expectations? So this way you have to work on your own to achieve your goal. So go this way.